We've been working through this book, Colossians, over the last 4 weeks, and as you've heard me talk about each of those weeks, it was important for Paul, as he addressed the church, to understand this central principle, that everything that we as followers of Christ do with our life, our activity, our organization, the function of the church in the world, is to kind of be in partnership with Jesus Christ, who was the first to make the invisible God visible, but we follow up in making the invisible God visible with our actions, our words, our organizations, the way we continue to act in the world. And sort of as a framework and a theme for where we're heading this year as a congregation, we want to allow that central concept to rise up and hopefully, as we've talked about this each and every week in the context of our study of Colossians, it's rising up in us as individuals, but we also want it to rise up in us as an organization. How can we as an organization sitting here in the 28803 area code, surrounded by businesses and homes and schools in East Asheville, in an area that is largely becoming a post-Christian world, become the space that makes the invisible God visible to those around us, become the people that can make the invisible God visible to those around us? And that's not to say that we've not done that in the past. In fact, we were excited as we came in here. Aaron and I, as many of you know, this is, I think today, in the next couple days, we will finally hit that 7-month mark here with the congregation. And in some ways, it seems like, we've been here much longer than that. And in other ways, it's like, man, we're just getting started to be able to do things. But what we've been able to observe in the time that we have been here is that we, as a community of faith, have already been all about making the invisible God visible. And those are the things that we want to celebrate. And so we're going to talk about where we're heading in the future, but we want to kind of begin today just with a celebration of what God has been doing in our midst. And one of the spaces that we get to sit with other incredible people on our finance team in the discernment of how our church will go forward, one of the incredible spaces of making the invisible God visible is through our financial giving, through our financial resources. And we have seen that happen this year in some beautiful, beautiful ways. So much so, as we've committed together as a community, I think it's one of the first times in the last few years where we've been able to project an increase in our budget. That's awesome. It's amazing to be in a spot where we can say, hey, we're going to do more this year. And through the work of Becky and the finance team in general, they were able to say, hey, we see trends going up, and we want to step out a little bit in faith and make a move in faith this year to say God is going to be faithful and God is going to help us. So we've seen that upward trend in giving. We've seen the financial health returning to us on the other side of what seemed to be a terrible result of the pandemic. So many churches experiencing so much hardship in that space. But we've seen it grow, and we've seen our church be committed to not only collectively coming together to receive contributions, but we've seen our church come together and say, how can we become good partners with the community to make sure that more resources from this community are going back into ministry? And some of you know this already, but last year we made the commitment to become a partner with the Spanish Academy. And this is a beautiful partnership that we have, but I want to be very clear in expressing how missional that connection is. Because what we've done in bringing that into our budget is we've said not only are we going to bless and create space where those children can come, even our child can come and experience that, but we're going to help take those resources, and they do pay a monthly allotment to the church for use of space, and we're going to allow those resources that come from that organization to go back out into ministry in the community. And so we've expanded our revenue streams. And we did that last year. We saw that last year, but we've also sort of lived into it this year. And I just want to bring up a chart. And everything that I bring up today, you can actually have access to. Becky is going to stand at the back, and you'll be introduced to all the leaders in a minute. At the end, Becky's going to have a sign-up sheet. If you want the details, like the nitty-gritty details about finances, see her, get your name on a list and your email, and she's going to send those out to you. But I'm just going to bring up some stuff real quickly. So as we look to 2023, one of the things that was really important for us to imagine is the way in which our revenue streams are expanded. Last year we expanded our revenue streams through the building rental with the Spanish Academy. We're projecting that's like $35,000 of our revenue stream this year. But we've also included a couple of other streams: miscellaneous income, which kind of results in events that we might hold here at the church for the community at large, and also grant income. And this is a way in which we are expressing that we want to be open and participate and open to collaborate with others in our community on how we can do mission and ministry together. And so the donor contributions has increased. It's up, I think, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but the numbers in my head, 14%. Is that right? Okay. So the budget itself has increased 14% as we go into the new year. But one of the biggest changes that we're seeing, not only in donor contribution increase, but it's increased opportunity to receive different streams of revenue. And so we're seeing that come up. And that, of course, changes all that we get to do as we go forward. And so the next one I want to bring up real quick, just with regard to finances, has to do with our expenses. And again, I know this is tiny. Some of you may not be able to see this, but what we've tried to do as we've imagined our budget in all the different categories is ways that we can tell the story of how we are deeply committed to our mission and our values. And so you can see, laced within the budget, there's things like our missions giving, $60,000, which is our core commitment to connection with the community. There are things like connections with each other, which have its own budget, which results in things like small groups and moments like this where we are connecting around table, money that goes back into this. Why? Because we're committed to being connected with each other. And so another 10% or so is going in that direction. Connection with God comes together under this worship headline, which includes things like the worship space, the sets that we have, the way in which we pay for a worship pastor to be a part of our community of faith. These are all ways in which we've committed to our mission and vision. And so all of that money that's coming in this year, we are committed to trying to tell the story of how it plays into our values as a church, our vision as a church. And constantly, instead of just saying, hey, we got a line item for a pastor or a youth pastor or a children's pastor, we say, what are we committed to? What are we committed to make sure that the invisible God is being made visible? And if we can commit to that, then we can get all the resources that we need in alignment to those things, rather than starting with just the organizational structure. So that's one of the ways that we're telling the story and able to divvy that out. Now, the forms that Becky will forward to you will have this, but it will also have the line items so that you can see how all this gets broken down and where it specifically goes. But what I want you to hear from us as we're thinking about and celebrating this idea of making the invisible God visible is we're about telling a story of God's activity in our midst. And the best way that we can continue to do that at an organizational level is to make sure to start at that foundational level of our finances, to say that our finances tell a story of God's activity amongst us. So that's kind of a very quick overview of the budget. Again, if you want the details, if you're like our accountants in the midst and you just like love that detail, Becky's going to give you more of that. But go ahead.
So I just want to speak to more. Let me just give you a minute to just sit with that image. Leave that up this whole time is fine, because I know some of you will want to try to process where you think those are, even before you get on that list of those details. But in part of telling the story that Sam's referring to, obviously we want our budget and the images of our budget to show our mission, our vision, our values, which we'll get to in a minute. But another way that we want to celebrate where we've seen growth and increase coming through 2022 is in volunteerism. We have seen probably about 10% of our regular attendance each week are people that, since we've been here, have signed up to serve either in a new way that more aligned with their strengths, your strengths and your interests, or some people for the very first time. And so several people have said, we need more volunteers. And if you've done anything in children's ministry, we need more people. A couple of Sundays, we've had more kids than we had in terms of our ratio expectations for volunteers. And it was like, oh, this is a good problem to have, right? And so we always need more to do what we're already doing, but we also have really wanted to lean into playing to the strengths that are represented in this room. So more than any action plan, specific area of serving. You all have things in your heart. You all have ideas in your mind. You all have ways that God has gifted you and is stirring you and has equipped you to lead in this church. And so we just want to support that and how God is working in you. And so, like I said, about 10% of our average attendance are new volunteers or volunteers fitting in a place where you're serving with your strengths instead of just serving where there is a need. One of those new roles, like when I speak to trying to contextualize what you're good at, what you're passionate at, what you're interested in, one of the new things we've added to family ministry is our family fun coordinators. Did you know there was such a thing? That's a job in the church. But Dave and Heidi Phillips, who are over here, if y'all will just say hey, everybody say hey. So they've been here for a long time, and they've served in a variety of capacities, but they have young children. And they signed up one Sunday to join the administrative team. And when we sat down and had coffee, we were like, oh, you are organized. Oh, you are fun. Oh, you do want to do things for family. Maybe you can help us make sure we're putting activities on the schedule for families and that we're just getting those kind of connection events for all ages happening. And so they're committed to making that happen. And they have all kinds of ideas of how we can grow and sharing parent-to-parent resources and ideas. And all of that will come with time. But for now, we're just planning the family fun coordination, and we're excited that they're joining us. And so I say that because I want to say how important it is for you to know what you're passionate about, you to know what you love, you to know what you're gifted at, and know that coming into 2023, if you haven't already found a spot or a place to lean in, we'd love to see that 10% of regular attenders are engaged grow even more. And so if you haven't found a spot at all, let's talk. Let's find a perfect place for you, because it's not just about checking the boxes and doing the work. It's about growing in your relationship with God and being stretched to the fullness of how he might want to use you, so that the story of his love for humanity can be told here and beyond these walls. So thanks, y'all, for seeing the need and responding. And we'll talk a little bit more at the end about reconnecting with serving. If you've been serving in a spot and you're like, I'm so burnt out, I've done the same thing for 20 years. That's a conversation we want to have too, because we've seen a few folks be able to make those kind of shifts. And to us, a good sign of health is that when we can be honest about where we're at and what we're struggling with and what we're so done with, so that everybody can, in due season, find their right spot and their right place. Another way that we've seen an increase over the past year has been the community engagement events. We know coming out of COVID, for every church all around the country has been incredibly difficult. And just bouncing back, people finding the energy, the stamina, the focus, the want to, the concern for health is still out there. And so all of those things have hindered it, but it's been exciting to watch the number of block parties that were happening with community participation, not just in-house for the church. The Harvest Festival or the Fall Festival this year, it was guesstimated more than 500 people were on our campus. So, it might not have resulted in deep conversation, but at least there was an opportunity to open our space and to share from our hearts and our hospitality team, and make sure that people had a great time and a great experience. It was things like Supper with Santa. This was, I think, the first time we've done that, or in the history of the church. I don't know if that's really true, but that sounds really powerful to say. It's the first time in the history of the church. I don't know. In a while, anyway. But at that event, I think we had something like 60% of the people that showed up to attend, more than half, were not from the church. They were folks from the community, friends and family that you may have invited or that saw it on social media and decided to come and, enjoy their photo op and put it in their Christmas card. The homecoming dance, it was the first homecoming dance in, I think, 8 years or something like that, for the school. And that was a huge success for the school. And that is a lot because of your willingness to allow this space to be transformed for the students. So that type of community engagement is telling a powerful story of coming through COVID, but also coming back to the fullness of what we can do if we will allow ourselves and our space to be open and to be receptive to just how people can feel loved and accepted in our community.
And I know this was a lot of information just coming from, kind of like celebration and in review. But as you take in this information, one of the reasons I put the slide up on the screen behind me is there may be questions that are coming to your mind, questions about budget, questions about events, questions about our volunteering and how you can volunteer. If you have any questions that you want to kind of put out there, text this number. This is going to be a number that we utilize to centralize a lot of communication this new year. Feel free to text us even now. It'll come to me here, and at the end we'll try to answer some of those questions, or if they're a question that you just want the answer to, we'll kind of focus it in. But feel free to send those questions at any point in time during this time, and we'll collect those and then try to answer them at the end. But as we look forward to what's happening in the future, after celebrating what God has done, one of the things that Aaron and I have been committed to is to once again pull us back and centralize us on God's call for this community of faith. Center us on God's mission for this church, the vision that we have for this church, the values that we hold in this church, and how we can center our lives and our organization back on that in making the invisible God visible in our community. And we thought lots about the statement that we say every single week, which is inviting all people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. That's who we are. That is our mission in this community and in this world. And that's not changed. That is core to who we are as a church. That's core to who we are as Christians. And we will continue to stand on that. And each of the parts of that mission statement are important. It's important that we invite, that we are constantly offering invitation to the world. It's important that we see all people as a part of that invitation, that we extend our arms wide in the same way that God would to invite all people into that. But it's equally as important that we kind of move into that second half of growing. And not only just growing, because lots of people can grow, and there are people who come to this church who may not say they have a relationship with Jesus who can grow as human beings, but we ultimately want to help individuals grow in their relationship with Jesus. Like becoming better disciples of Jesus, knowing that that is transformative in their life. And that's the opportunity that lies in front of us as individuals who are here. We still have that call to grow every single day, to become better disciples of Jesus every single day. But we also have the opportunity in our growth to see growth in other people, our families, our friend network, our community, and to see that. So the mission's not changed. The vision for connecting with God, connecting with others, and connecting with our community, that's not changed. We're digging into it. We continue to hold values like grace and truth and covenant and community, prayer, worship, hospitality, service, growth, authenticity. We hold all those in our hands, and those haven't changed.
I just want to speak to those a little bit more. One of the things that we feel like is not as visible are those values, which are written on a document, tucked away somewhere. And these are part of what we want to see, and we've even asked the staff to try to see in their areas where they're focusing to help them become more visible. So you have some pens, I think, and some paper if you want to write these down, and we'll try to put them out in a follow-up email so you can see them in a more pointed way. But for those of you that want to hone in on values, especially considering that values can drive us as much as mission and vision. If they're well thought out, then the values should not contradict mission and mission and vision should not contradict values. But values are a little bit easier for us to figure out practically how to move into them. So they kind of come in pairs. The first pair is grace and truth. Grace and truth. We want to be grace-filled. It's part of the Methodist theology, is a theology of grace, and we want to be truth-filled. We want to proclaim the good news, the gospel, and the word of God, and the truth as it's been revealed to us by the power of the Holy Spirit and through the person of Jesus Christ and on the pages of Scripture. So grace and truth, holding those in balance. The next pair is covenant and community. Imagine that. It goes with our name. This idea that covenant is more than a contract. It's this deep, intimate way in which we commit our lives to each other. And community means that we will share deeply, not just be committed to each other, but we will share deeply and we will share widely, even beyond us, continuing to invite a mutuality of existence in our lives that we give and take. The third set of values is prayer and worship. It seems to go without saying in a church, but to be honest, a lot of times those things fade to the background. In fact, we had a conversation recently about how easy it is for us when we're speaking in grace and we're engaged in community to sometimes dial down on prayer and worship. But our hope is that we will lean in and deeply engage in those spiritual disciplines. The next pair is hospitality and authenticity. I've heard several people describe Covenant as a pretty authentic place. It's one of the things that makes me most proud to pastor here, is that we try to let each of us show up how we are and as who we are, and try to downplay some kind of performance element to our faith. Some of that's inescapable, but we want to be hospitable, and we want to welcome and present ourselves as authentically as possible. And then the last pair is growth and service. Growth and service. And I think some of that goes without saying, but I don't want to minimize, just because it's the last on the list, the role of service and the role that serving each other has to play in growing us. I mean, I kind of alluded to that a minute ago when I was talking about volunteers, but serving is the place where we are forced to grow, because then suddenly you have to serve people you might not like or you might not agree with, or whatever the case may be. That's how growth comes. So those definitely go together. And so those are the things we want to make visible. So we've asked Ken and Steve to share, and we are asking Angie Pentecost. I lost you. You're in here. So there she is, to share a little bit about youth and worship and mission, and then we'll say a few more things there. But Steve, you want to kick the party off? Get the party started.
Well, we can have everybody come up.
Come on up so you'll be ready to roll.
Seats, and we'll kick it off with Steve.
Would you give some of our staff and ministry leaders a warm welcome to the stage?
No, you can go back after you're done. Yes, Steve, you're the only one who has to stay up here the whole time. You guys can go back after you're done. Steve, you just sit up here awkwardly. Oh, did you?
For those of you that don't know, can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, guys. Yeah, so my name is Steve Martinez. I'm the student director here at the church. And Sam and Aaron have asked me to share a little bit about the future of the youth ministry here. So it is value focused. So Aaron had mentioned some of the values. And we have, so values to live into, right? So authenticity, service, and community. So just big on discipleship, really want to help our students grow in discipleship. So creating opportunities every Sunday for that to happen. So looking to have something for students to, take in the service with their peers up in we have a couple new student spaces upstairs. One is basically a game lounge. Some of y'all have been up there. Some of y'all maybe have been up there without anybody knowing, because I've seen the score on the Miss Pac-Man machine has changed. So maybe some of y'all, but we have cameras, so we know who you are. But so yeah, we have a game lounge. Kids can go in there. There's an air hockey table. There's also some, retro games, and Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers. So that's a big draw. But yeah, creating a space where the kids feel welcomed and can take in the service with their peers. And so that's going to take place every Sunday during the second service. And so we'll live stream the service that's happening here. Our live stream crew does such a great job. Let's give it up for our live stream crew. It comes in so well. I mean, we stream in through YouTube. I don't know if I'm encroaching on like your presentation, but yeah, YouTube is going. Oh. So also, so the streaming through YouTube, and then just having meaningful discussion with the kids, with their peers up there. Also creating opportunity for the students to get together after service. We've done a few of them already, lunchtime, devotional games, immediately following the service. And that's going to be, we're kind of exploring to see how all this looks, if the students are engaged in it, and, if it's going to be part of like the long-term plan moving forward. So big on volunteerism. So Aaron had mentioned about how our church's identity is in serving. So in collaboration with the missions committee, serving opportunities this year through local ministries, through partner ministries, really, Haywood Street and ABCCM. And there is a training that's going to happen. When is that training?
Next week.
Is it next Monday?
Not tomorrow, but the first Monday. of
The
February.
first, yeah. So the first Monday of the month, there's a training for Haywood Street. So in partnership with, and this is part of the collaboration between departments here. So youth has a designation, missions committee has a designation. So when the missions committee does decide to serve, we want our kids to be involved in that as well. So that's in serving. And communication, so exploring what a texting platform, so some of y'all see this text in church. The communication in the church has, I mean, how many of y'all get like emails from the family ministry? And how many of them go to like the spam folder? Yeah. So we're trying to figure all that out. We're exploring new options, and just Sam and Aaron have been really intentional on bringing everything together, and we're looking into this text in church platform that looks to be, I hope you like text messages, because it's really going to be a good way to stay in touch with what's happening here and what's happening in your life as well. So student ministry is going to take part in that, just creating like a meaningful, engaging connection with our students and families. So also, just a quick announcement, the student and children's ministry team training is going to be next Sunday, February 5th, to go through the safe sanctuary procedure. So if you are involved or you're planning on getting involved, we're having that immediately following the service. I believe there is food, and it's going to be soup, right? So we're going to soup it up. And so I mean, that's all I have. I don't know if is that it? So I just hand it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You can have it back at any point. If you, just a reminder, any direct, specific questions, you can go ahead and send them to this number. We'll get all those questions together, and we'll answer what we can today, and we'll do some one-on-one or via email, or depending on what the questions are or how they come in. So thanks, Steve.
No, you.
Not me. My name is Ken. I'm the worship arts pastor here at Covenant. So that basically means I'm in charge of music and what you see on the screens and the environment in here, and also what you see online if you watch it online. And that's my role. And just to touch on a few things that we've had happen this past year, we've increased our team by about 10%, which means there was like two more people joined, which is great. But they're wonderful. They're wonderful people. Yeah, 10% sounds better. But that's exciting, and of course, just having Sam and Aaron join us, it's been it's really, be honest, it's what's the word? Revived kind of my creativity and things, and they're very creative. So we've been working well together, and I've really enjoyed that. I think that's been a great thing. But one thing that I've kind of focused on for this past year is living into the title that I have, which is a pastor. I'm not ordained, but that's my title. But kind of living into that word and that role for the worship team, and trying to engage them a little bit more, and kind of one-on-one time, and checking in with them, every week or every other week, and how can I pray for you, that kind of thing. And also finding ways to get the team together more. And like we had a Christmas party, and we're planning something in the summer, doing some Bible study together, that sort of thing, or some continuing to add those things. And the reason for that is, if we as a team, if we're all a bunch of individuals who show up and get up here and play music, it'd probably sound good, but you'd be able to tell that we weren't a community, we weren't a team. And so it's building that team and that community and that cohesiveness, and I think that that's projected when we're up here worshiping and leading you in worship. So that's something that I've been focusing on, will continue to be focusing on. One other piece I want to add, I'm not going to talk as long as Steve did. They actually gave us a certain time, and he went over, I'm pretty sure. But one other piece, as Steve mentioned, was we have been, since the pandemic, 2020, since we were closed down, we've been live streaming. And we've been trying to sort of improve that as we go along. Because honestly, we had to jump in head first when that happened, and so we've been trying to improve the equipment and that sort of thing, and do more training. But one thing that'll be kind of a focus this year for me is the content of that live stream. That right now it's just you go to that, you're watching what's happening here in the room, so you're kind of a spectator, and it's coming up with some ways to take the people who are not here, who are watching online, and making them more involved and interacting more and engaged more. And so we're talking about some different ideas. I won't go into any details about that, but that's something that we're going to be looking at over the next year, just improving that online experience and moving it from, it's basically been, oh, if you can't be here, you can watch, to an outreach, whether it's somebody sees us and goes, oh, I want to go to that church, or it's somebody who'll never step foot in this building, and they could live on the other side of the world, but they become part of this community here. And just so engaging in that community. So
I think you got it.
I was like, okay, thanks. That's me. This is Angie.
I heard your. Is this on?
Yeah, you got to talk.
Hello. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's good.
Hello.
He got you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Gotcha. Thanks, Ken. Hey, I heard your Christmas party was really fun, by the way. So I might want to join the
blast.
music team for that reason, I hear. So anyway, I'm Angie Pentecost, and I am currently the chairperson of the missions team. I've been involved here at Missions for a long, long time. Many of you have probably seen me here a while, but a long time. So I want to start today talking a little bit about the mission budget. How do we come to have the amount of money that we spend for missions? And it's kind of been our tradition the past several years to tithe on our budget. Becky and the finance team and the church council set a budget, and they give 10% of that to the missions team to use. 1% of that we use for benevolence within the church. If people have, loss of employment, unexpected medical problems that come up, we do have money available to assist you in those times of crisis, and so we use 1% for that. We have 9% we use and we send out outside of our walls, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where that goes. That has typically been anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000. This year, you probably saw it's going to be about $60,000, so up a little bit. So we're happy about that. But I also want to thank you all. Tracy and the staff have estimated that in additional givings, like when we ask for sponsorships at Christmas or sponsorships of backpacks and Thanksgiving boxes, things like that, you all have given an additional probably $22,000 that go outside of our walls. So thank you all for that. We really expands what we can do outside of the church, and we thank you. So we have some mission focuses that we put most of our money and time to, or we traditionally have. ABCCM is one of those, Haywood Street Congregation, and then our neighboring schools, Reynolds Middle and High School. We also have developed a relationship with the Kersey community across the street, across 74, the mobile home community over there. We also have an international association with Vision Nicaragua, and then also a ministry out of here called Car Care. And I'm just going to briefly kind of give you an idea of what we have done with those this year. ABCCM, I don't know if there's any new folks here, but that's Asheville Buncombe Community Christian Ministry, and it's been around for 50 years doing work in our community. They do crisis ministry. They're supported by over 300 churches. We have been supporting them for years, and they help people in crisis with food, furniture, clothing. They have transitional living at Transformation Village for women and children, women veterans. They have the Veterans Restoration Quarters for men veteran near the VA Medical Center. So they have been in this community and do a lot of things well. So we use them when we get benevolence requests coming from outside the church. Tracy has access to their charity checker software and all that, and we use that to to see where people have gotten money and maybe money hasn't been available, and so sometimes we fill in when places out in our community are not able to do that. We collect things out in our boxes out near the door for them as well. So we have been a long-time partner with them. We give them monthly money and sponsor them. Haywood Street Congregation, that is a missional United Methodist congregation downtown that serves our friends that are kind of living on the edge of community down there, and it's a real relational type of ministry. They're all about being with rather than doing for. They have 2 big welcome tables every week, Wednesday, Sunday. They serve a lot of people food. They have worship services, community garden. They have a beautiful art fresco that shows how it just shows their work there very beautifully if you haven't seen that. But we have several people in this congregation that volunteer and work there a lot regularly. We sponsor them, just the regular Haywood Street congregation, and then also their Respite. Respite is a program they have for people who are unhoused when they come out of the hospital. It's a place where they can recuperate, rest, get meals until they get back on their feet, get to their doctor's appointments. We give separate monies to both of those on a monthly basis that we support. The schools, Reynolds Middle and High, we have been trying to and working and developing our relationship with them for several years. And I think we have a really good relationship with the principals, the social workers, and the teachers there. And we work to try to support the teachers. We want them to know we see them and we support them. Some of the things we've done this year provided meals, special meals on their, teacher work days. We have done teacher gift bags. You all put those together here, and we walked them over, and we were able to go around the schools and pray for our teachers. We had an ice cream truck one day at the first of the school year. Sam and Aaron had a listening session with them and was able to find some needs that some of the teachers had, and we provided those when we did the bags, some extra things for them that they needed in their classrooms. So we're always trying to support them. We also support the students and their families. The social workers over there, they know our process. They have our forms. They know how Tracy does things, and we use ABCCM, and kind of usually we're what they use after they've exhausted all of those avenues, but we're often able to meet needs of students and families in our community through the schools. And, we also do things at Christmas and Thanksgiving for them as well. Many of you work in the concession stands over there. We try to provide space for school dances and school events. We got one coming up in March, a Manna Food Bank event that the high school is doing, but we try to offer our resources and space to be good neighbors, to our schools. Kersey Community, we probably got connected with them through the Buncombe County Feed Program in the summer. Tracy has a close relationship. I know Yolanda has helped over there, Yolanda Bopp, with her Spanish speaking. And, a lot of the students that we sponsor at Thanksgiving and at Christmas are students that live in the Kersey community. So we continue to, to provide for them when they have needs, a bed, a fan, anything like that. We try to help and just be connected to that community. And a lot of those folks have come over to our community-wide events that we've had. They feel like this is a good, safe place for them to come with their families. And so we like to see that and see them come out. Vision Nicaragua, you saw, that's a ministry that started out of this church probably in the late 1990s, came around with Hurricane Mitch that kind of devastated Nicaragua. But it's run here out of Asheville, not out of this church any longer, but it is our international association. Probably originally it was they helped with housing and feeding and that kind of thing. Now it's probably more of an empowerment organization that helps support high school and college students to train, and so they can come back and give back to the communities there in Nicaragua. They also help widows. One of the main jobs there is working on sugar plantations, and the men that work there have gotten exposed to pesticides and chemicals, and they have developed chronic kidney disease, and many of them, die prematurely in their 40s and 50s, leaving families, and so they do assist those widows there in the communities as well. But we are having a trip there. Sam announced about that. Trip Porter, wave your hand back there. He's leading that up. If you have even a little interest and want to know about it, come next Sunday in between services upstairs, and you can learn more about that and see if that's for you. We had a trip in 2020 that we had to cancel, so we're just trying to get back in community with them. Car Care, the Houstons, raise your hands back there. Car Care is a ministry that's been out of this church a long time. The next one is coming up February the 11th, and they would love to have you help them. If you don't know anything about cars, it's okay. You can come and just be with people that are there. They're clients. They serve, a lot of, they serve single mothers, women, widowed women, just kind of, it's a safe place for women to come and, feel like they can get their car taken care of, and, they kind of, even if you don't know what's going on, they trust the Houstons and know that they're taking care of them. So they would love to have you come out and be a part of them. It's a quarterly mission that we do. So see the Houstons if you have any interest or looking for a way to plug in. The last thing I want to talk, we had a mini missions retreat a couple of weeks ago, and, just trying to, see where missions is, where are we, what's working, is there things not working, because we don't want to hold on and be doing things in the community that are not effective. So we had a time together, and we kind of came out with, a few goals for this next year, and we're going to continue to be working, through that. One of the things it's kind of come up, we want to have more, be in more relational ministry. Where we send our money, we want to send our people too, and we want to do it together. So our goal is to have more of that. We're coming out of the pandemic and, feel like, we can do that now. So just be looking for those opportunities. We want to make them happen. We want to engage our students and youth, our children and youth, and be involved with, Steve and his kids, Heidi and Dave, thank you. I know you, Dave. But anyway, couldn't come to me there. But, we want to be engaging everybody in our outreach and missions. And so those were a couple of things. And then we just want to continue to listen to our community. If we need to pivot and be doing different things, then we want to do that. We want to have effective work outside of the church. So, Aaron and Sam have been doing some of that, and I think we will continue to do some of that and listen and hear what our ministry partners really need and what we need to be doing for them. So we would love, do you have ideas? We would love to know about them. Do you have talents we can use? Are you a good storyteller? Can you tell our story? Can you take pictures? Do you want to be plugged in? Do you want to go to Nicaragua? We would love to have you in any of those capacities. So Tracy is our staff liaison, so you can always call and leave her a message. You can text a message here today, and we just want you to work together in our community. Thank you all.
Thank y'all for those updates. You can stay as long as you want, but if you prefer to get another plate of food, you can. That goes for everybody. We'll go just a few more minutes here, but put your hands together again, not only for the work that's happening amongst you, but God's activity through it. We know that you are probably watching your watch, so we don't want to hold you too much longer, but we do want to share a few things from our heart. Celebration, of course, for the faithfulness through a tumultuous season. Any church coming through COVID, as we said, if you stuck around and you stayed engaged and you showed up and you fought about what should or should not be done, and you're still here, that's tremendous, because statistically, people found a lot of comfort in not being engaged in the work of the church in the world, or they found other ways rather than the traditional church to do it. Not that God isn't still God and people aren't still living into their gifts and calls, but people just found other avenues to find that. And so we're delighted to share in these gifts and this call with all of you. When you think about our mission statement, inviting all people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ, I think most weeks we lean a little heavy on the inviting all people, and that will continue to be a theme. But maybe just for this year, we'd really like to hone in on this idea of growth, that what we want to focus in on for 2023 is growth. And I'm not talking about numerical growth, though if God blesses us in that way, that's wonderful and that's lovely, and we will count our blessings and steward what we have for the best benefit of everyone. But we're talking about a deep internal transformation. When we invite people to a relationship with Jesus, we are not inviting them to religion. We are not inviting them to worship services and fun activities, though we want to continue to do that. All those things are what we do to fuel growth in our hearts, in our homes, in our ministries, in our community, in every way, shape, or form. And so a few focus areas for us that are kind of been touched on in what you've heard here, but we want to just further accentuate or enunciate or somehow put a little accent there, is that we believe that growth really starts in the home. And so no matter what we do here, that can only go so far. Doesn't matter how good the worship is, how good the preaching is, how good anything is presented or offered, the prayer is, and we'll get to all those things. But what happens at home matters a lot, and I think we all know that. And we believe firmly that the primary spiritual influence in the lives of our children and our teenagers are families. And so with that, we want to really try to highlight more family-centered spirituality. And so that will happen with things like family-style seating in the worship service and family missions opportunities like the kids did with these bags today. It will happen with the connection that the Phillips are going to help make happen. It will happen, hopefully it will happen over time. We're in the middle of trying to hire a children's pastor, so when that's all kind of settled, we'll be able to have a better system of communication for resources to talk about faith. The curriculum we use with our kids actually has a lot of layers to it that is designed for parents to be equipped, and grandparents to be equipped, and aunts and uncles to be equipped, and adopted parents to be equipped. So we believe that a lot of this will start at home, and so there will be a family-centered spirituality kind of push. Another piece of this growth that we believe happens is through reestablishing systems of care. We know probably everybody in the room can say that we've been hurt by the church somewhere along the way for a lot of different reasons. But some of the most, I'll say, foolish ways that people get hurt is because they fell through the cracks, right? They weren't in the database. We didn't know someone was sick. And so we're reestablishing that. Hopefully, predominantly care will happen starting with small groups, but we know not everybody connects with a small group. And so we have individuals who have started to say, I think I want to help with this. If you're one of those, we'd love to hear from you, so that we can be taking care of everything from meals and errands and just loving on one another to just whatever comes up when people have different points of need, visitation in the hospital, all those kinds of things. And we're learning new things that are coming up for folks that feel disconnected but want to stay connected. And so if your heart is bent that way, we think this is part of the focus area for 2023, is to reestablish systems of care so that we can grow together.
So growth, I don't need it. Growth is happening at home. Growth is happening through our helping one another through systems of care. And then I've discerned, as we've met with different ones throughout the church, and Aaron and I have talked about this, that growth also happens in our hearts. And part of that growth in our hearts means that we once again reestablish the importance of providing opportunities for spiritual growth through disciplines. Some of this you've seen even on Sundays, where we'll offer opportunities in cooperation with our teaching series to read through the passages of Scripture that we're going through. That'll be a consistent and regular practice where we provide reading plans that you can pick up and offer as supplemental parts of your your growth in studying Scripture. It could happen at every age level as we seek to look at new ways to engage Scripture together at different age levels, whether it's online devotions that are sent out weekly or every other week to our students, or what we choose to do more creatively with our children and how they engage with Scripture and those. One of the most exciting areas of expansion in this area of spiritual growth that we are kind of walking into this year is the expansion of our prayer ministry. Prayer ministry is a central and a valuable asset here at the church. It's something that when Aaron and I walked into, we were just swept up in the beauty of the prayer team and how they hold this church up in their prayers and intercede. That's really the word. There's intercession that takes place on behalf of those who are ministers here. It gives me great comfort knowing that the way in which people poured their hearts out even this morning and kind of pinned those to the crosses, they don't end there, but the prayer team will gather those and pray over those every single week. They don't dig through it and read over it, but they do that. But the expansion this year is to kind of really see where God is calling us into this next area of healing prayer. And how we can use our lives in prayer to seek the healing of others. And so we've been in conversation particularly with the prayer team and the leadership of the prayer team, Ed and Brenda, Larry, Dottie, and thinking about ways that healing prayer can be introduced into our congregation and how people can become, kind of benefit from that, but then how our community at large can benefit from that as well. So that will be coming out in the future as a part of this growth in the heart and how we engage with the spiritual disciplines. Another area, Aaron said growth happens at homes. One thing that's central to the church, we also know that growth happens in homes through small groups. And this is something that, has historically, we're moving on the 30th year of our church in existence this year. And it has historically been a part of who we are. And we just want to kind of ramp that up this year, renewing a rhythm for how we can offer both leadership development and pathways into small groups, and continue to place emphasis there so that higher and higher percentages of our church membership are invested and involved in small group. We've already crossed boundaries of making them online and in person and in church and at home and in communities, but there's so many other ways that we can continue to expand that out. So that's what we'll be doing as we focus in on growth and at home and in small groups.
So the last piece that connects with that, I think you have on your table some papers that have multiple colored blocks called maybe the Neighborhood Challenge. I don't actually know what the heading is, but we know that growth happens through our heightened awareness of who our neighbors are, right? We've been blown away that in 7 months, there's a lot of residential communities around the church that we haven't really paid attention to very much yet. There's businesses that we haven't frequented because we haven't needed to. And so we want to heighten your awareness in the same way that we're calling the staff to be a little bit more aware of two things. For you individually, it's the 8 homes closest to you. And if you live rural, you might have to drive a little bit to get to the next home. But if you live close, you might already know your neighbors. And that's what that challenge is for you to take home and get to know your neighbors by name. Get to know their gifts and their skills. Get to know about their children and their grandchildren. Not because we're going to say, you have to come to Covenant. If that happens to be something that comes up, great. But because the Spirit of God through this church happens when you take it home, right? If nobody ever comes here, Ken alluded to it earlier, if nobody ever comes that watches online, we can still have influence and impact, a faith-based impact in the lives of the people that are closest to us. So it's 8 homes near you, and then collectively we're looking kind of at a 2.5-mile radius from this building. We know that culturally, the church, any one church, is not the center of community for most people anymore. It's not the center of their lives or their activity, though we continue to offer activities and engagement. But just paying attention within 2.5 miles, we would just challenge you to become more aware of what businesses are here, of what neighbors are here, of what other churches are here that we may or may not have partnered with or done anything with, what schools, besides just the ones that are obviously right here, are touching nearby, what activities and community centers and engagement, what's happening in our neighborhood that we may not pay attention to. We live 20 minutes south from here, so we're here all week, but that only goes so far. And we like to eat at the restaurants. We know those businesses here. We like to visit where we can, but it only goes so far. And so it's going to take a collective effort from all of us, not just staff and not just ministry area leaders, to just be aware and know who's here and what's happening and how we can be engaged in all those other ways that will grow, starting with who and how.
As we wrap up, I want to invite Kelly to come and join us here on the stage. And one of the reasons that we saved Kelly for last, Kelly is our Administrative Council Chair, and she yes, round of applause.
Round of applause for
Kelly,
Administrative
she
Council
comes.
Chair Kelly.
And one of the most important things embedded into who we are as a community of faith is the importance of lay leadership in our church. And of course, Kelly represents this in a very real way. And it is a constant reminder to us as pastoral leaders that the things we've talked about, the vision that God has given us as a community of faith, is not possible without us, without all of us. Ordained or not, lifelong leaders in the church or not, first-time Christians, whatever. We are all called by God to carry this message into the world. And so Tripp's coming around with a document right now, and I just want Kelly to take a moment before we wrap up and introduce all of our leadership council to you, and you all who are on the leadership council who are here, you're going to have to stand, so just get ready for that. But Kelly, go ahead and introduce them to us.
All right, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so good afternoon. I'm kind of in between you guys and the door, so I'll keep it quick. The church council is kind of the administrative body of the church, and it's made up of members of the congregation, and our job is kind of to partner with the pastors and staff to kind of be the bridge and do the work of the church. And there's different focus areas. And any questions that you have about church council and what we do and how we operate, I invite you to find me, email me. If you have my number, call me. I'm happy to give my number out as well. But what I'd like what the members of council, I'd like them to come up here and introduce themselves and very quickly their role. So I'll come down here real quick. Mm-hmm. So if you're on council, come up this way.
We have our finance team, our trustees, and our SPR reps. Can you give them a big round of applause as they come? And our lay leader, who is both on trustees and as a lay leader.
We don't get to be introverts today. So just as a reminder, my name is Kelly Houston. Right now I'm currently serving as council chair. All of our positions, we rotate for a couple of years. And so if you have any interest in any of these areas, feel free to see any one of us because we always need new people and new ideas. Start with you.
My name is Barbie Breedlove, and I'm on the finance team.
I'm Nicole Ray. This is my third year on SPR.
Joe Rominski, SPR chairperson. SPR, we take care of staff parish relationships, and technically we are responsible hiring and not hiring. And we're support team for staff members.
We're pretty much the HR committee. Mike Long, SPR, third year.
Hi, I'm Becky Williams. I am the chair of the Finance Committee. We have one other member, Carrie Lapierre, who's on vacation, so she's not here. But our job is just to meet once a month, and we review all the payables, the payroll, and make sure everything looks right on a month-to-month basis. And we did help with the budget preparation.
I'm James Snook, and I'm third year of Board of Trustees. Randy is our chairman, Randy Bagmary, and I also serve as lay leader and hospitality director.
we do have a couple of people who are out of town. If I miss anybody, y'all correct me. Carrie is out of town on finance. Jack Adair is with SPR. Paula. Where's Paula? Oh, Paula's hiding.
Oh, you're just staying seated over there?
So we have Paula Hendrickson, who is also on trustees as well. Am I missing anybody on council? I don't think so. So if any of you have any questions about council, what we do, we meet every month. Usually we take time off at Thanksgiving and Christmas because the scheduling, usually a lot of people are out of town. But any questions, feel free to see me. Feel free to reach out to anybody that's on the contact sheet. And feel free to also reach out to Sam and Aaron if you have questions about council as well. Thank you.
Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate everybody's leadership and involvement. We do want to hear your voice. A couple things I want to say. One is get in touch with these leaders. Get in touch with us. You can do that through our email at the church website. We are available. We try to make ourselves available to connect, to have coffee dates, to meet in the office as much as we can for conversation. So we would love to get together if there's things you want to unpack or work through and talk about. And I think everybody's pretty open to that. The other thing I would say is get in the loop if you're not already. Thank you for being here. This is an annual kind of way to be in the loop, but if you're not aware, there's a weekly e-news that goes out. In the lobby, there's a monthly kind of list of activities and events that's on a display kind of on your way out the door. There's a Facebook group for kind of an insiders group, a regular attenders and members group where we post things a little bit more frequently. And then we use a church database called Realm. And we've been trying to move towards that. You'll hear more about this in March. But if you've seen in your email, or if you've seen something when you give online, or if you've seen something that's prompted you to connect with something called Realm, Realm is our church database. And through that, we're going to be more strategic about promoting events and making sure that we can be connected. And there's also an opportunity to access the church directory on there for people who have elected to have your information visible there. Again, you'll hear more about that in March when we're more specific on making sure your information is right and that you have signed off if you want it to be visible or not. And we'll also be publishing more widely at that time how to get connected with that app, either on your computer or on your phone in that way. So we're going to close with a moment of prayer and a couple questions. I think the most pressing one I was asking about Sam's hair product. Y'all are a fun bunch, I have to say. We didn't get a lot of super serious questions, and we welcome them through this means or through our emails in days to come. But the part that we really want for you to use your sticky notes for is to answer, if you haven't answered this question, what is it that needs healing here? Covenant has a long history, from what I understand, of being a place of healing for unchurched people, for de-churched people, for people who've been, just dealing with a lot of stuff. And we only know what we've heard and seen from our leadership, who we trust and have so much respect for, individuals who have come and made time to have coffee with us and shared about, kind of pain and struggle. We know that what needs healing is sometimes collective, and what needs healing is sometimes very personal. And so there's no specific way you have to answer this question. We're just genuinely curious to hear your voice and to hear you help us know what is it that needs healing in this church, in your homes, and in this community, particularly Buncombe County and the closer you can get. What needs healing? I'm going to go get my kids. Y'all are going to pray and answer that question. And we'll go from there and see how God might be the one who heals us and heals through us. Amen.
I'm going to read one passage as you write those answers down. And I read this passage because I want this passage to be sealed in your memory. I called this my TBN moment this week. In a minute, you'll understand what that means. You saw Aaron and I have been talking about 8 homes and 2.5 mile radius. And I got turned to Matthew 8:2.5. And so it's my TBN moment. It's 8:2.5. And in this passage, Jesus is face to face with a leper who needs healing. And Jesus has finished teaching. He's done all that. Sermon on the Mount, had crowds in front of him. And the very first place where the ministry of Jesus intersects with human life is with this leper. He teaches this thousands of people, talks about all the good things he's going to do. But when it comes down to it and healing happens, it happens in the heart of this leper. And the first thing out of the leper's mouth was this in chapter 8, verse 2. Lord Jesus, if you're willing, you can make me clean. That's what I want to be in your heart. You're going to write this down. You're going to say, this is what needs healing here. But on the other side of that, there's something that follows up. Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Lord, if you're willing, you can make our community clean. Lord, if you're willing, you can change the hearts of those who are around us. You can change the social structures. Lord, if you're willing, you can do this. And so as we close, and I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to focus on that, and then I'm going to close this in prayer right at 1:30. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to write that out and to pray over that. Some of you might want to move, and that's okay. If you want to come to the altar and pray about your answer to that, that's great. If you want to find yourself just kind of walking, aimlessly in a circle, I don't know how you write and think, but if you do that, nobody's going to judge you in here. That's fine. But take a moment and just pray seriously. God, where do I need your healing? And then look at it. Say, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Let's take just a moment and pray. If you're physically able and willing to, would you join me in the altar? We can just congregate down here for this closing prayer. I just love kind of this sign of unity. And if you don't feel comfortable or want to move in that way, that's fine. Feel free to stay right where you are. But just as a sign, I would love for us to kind of gather in that form of unity. Come bunch up. You don't have to form a circle. It can be just organized chaos. It's fine. It's fine. If you've got someone you want to hang on to, feel free to do that. And if not, that's okay too. I don't know what God's Spirit is speaking to you about health for yourself, for the community, where it would fall. But here's what I know. Every growing organism is a healthy organism. And so health is a necessary part of growth. And if we want to grow, as individuals in our relationship with Jesus, there has to be health somewhere there. If we want to grow as a community, there has to be health that we're striving for and seeing God bring. So there's an importance to settling in here and discerning this work. And this is the invitation that lies in front of us. How will we discern where health is needed for us and for our community? Let's all pray together. God, I thank you so much for this body that you've assembled here in East Asheville. A safe haven, a sanctuary for people who have been hurt and harmed, sometimes by the church, sometimes by life and circumstances that are around them. But God, for nearly 30 years now, you have set us up as a beacon on a hill, anchored and prepared to receive those who are hurting, who are experiencing pain, and to place them in a position and a posture where they can experience growth that your Son can bring to us. God, we are that people. We are the people who need your healing touch. We are the people who need the salve that would come over us and soothe the pains that are there in our lives. We are the ones who need that healing today. And so start, Spirit of God, with that work inside of us, but allow it to spill out from us into the community and the world around us. Help us to be agents of healing to this world, ministers of reconciliation, to carry your healing touch to everyone that we come in contact with. And do that in us, do that deep, deep work in us, that we might grow and grow and grow into the people who you've destined us to be, disciples of Jesus Christ. And we thank you for it. We thank you for all that you've brought us through and all that still lies ahead. We sanctify this space once more for you in your kingdom. Go with us this day. In Jesus' name, amen.